Welcome to the Millennial and a Boomer Walk into a Coffee Bar podcast.
The very best podcast to get your life advice in the form of a grande caramel macchiato in a venti cup, one third whole milk, one third almond milk, one third soy milk, double the amount of vanilla syrup, caramel wall in the cup, no caramel drizzle on top, upside down, of course, tall ice cup, whipped cream, rounded lid, one shot extra espresso, decaf, cinnamon sprinkled on the top, and for the name, that's David, spelled Dafydd, please.
Or to get your business, finance, and life support black coffee advice, I'm Dan, I'm a Boomer.
And I'm Chase, the Millennial. Thanks for joining us today.
Welcome back to another episode of Boomer and a Millennial. So excited to have you with us. And I gotta admit, I laugh every time when we spell David, Dafydd, in the intro. I grew up in northern Utah, and in northern Utah, those parents come up with the craziest names and the craziest spellings for normal names. So anyway, that's just a little throwback to where we were raised. If you're listening and you're like, hey, where's the boomer? Well, he's still enjoying his boomer vacation. So you're stuck with me 2 weeks in a row. 2 weeks in a row. I want to thank those of you who listened last week, and I want to call out. It really is helpful if you like an episode on YouTube or you subscribe. The more people who subscribe, the more people will find it through the automated features, because that's the way the algorithms work. They submit the show to new people who might like it as people subscribe. So your subscriptions to our show, both in the iTunes library and in YouTube, they really do help a lot. So thank you so much for those of you who leave us a note and or like the episode. With that said, we did get some feedback from the last episode that was just the Millennial about the memes and the fact that even after I described memes, some boomers still don't understand them. So while I'd love to do a second episode on memes, I don't think I'll be doing that today. But feel free to reach out to the boomer when he's back, and he will be more than happy to agree with you that he doesn't understand memes, I'm sure. So today we are going to jump in on a topic that I actually do know a little bit about. I have been in the education space for the last, I don't know, coming on 15 years now. And I want to talk about education from different perspectives. But instead of giving a bunch of different perspectives, what I'm going to do is I'm going to describe some of the perspectives. And then hopefully next week we will have the Boomer and Millennial back together again. I'll be back on the other side of the desk, I'm sure. But we can dig in and get the different perspectives on them. So today I want to talk just a little bit about the future of education. Let's talk about how technology is reshaping the way we learn, the innovative ways that technology is maybe transforming the educational landscape, how we're seeing things like online courses and virtual classrooms and AI-powered tutoring and all these different things. And the buzzword of the day is personalized learning. Personalized learning, whether it's personalized learning courses or personalized learning platforms, individualized learning is what you'll hear it called sometimes. And so I want to just dig into that. So let's dig right in. The future of education, how technology is reshaping the way we learn. First, the rise of online learning. How digital courses are democratizing education is how I've seen it once in a segment. Let's talk about the growing popularity of online courses and degree programs. What are the benefits? Well, first, there's this idea of flexibility. And I want to make sure to call it an idea because not all online courses are the same. Some have flexibility and some do not. There's also the idea, and I would call this in most instances a common misconception, but the idea of affordability in online courses. And so we'll dig in. First, the idea of flexibility. So online courses can have flexibility. How? Well, if it's an asynchronous class, there is a ton of flexibility usually. What that means is asynchronous, there is no live instructor, there are no live sessions. That's not really what it means, but for all intents and purposes, this is what it means, right? It means that you get to work through the course at your own leisure. And some of those online courses are asynchronous classes with a ton of flexibility. But on the flip side, there are synchronous classes, which means there is a live teacher, there are live class sessions, and there is usually a lot less flexibility in these types of courses. So I play in the K through 12 space, and we have both types of courses that I've offered through the different schools that I've launched in the past. And as I think through this, there are instances and times when both of these types of programs work well for students. So, what type of class or course or whatever we want to call it works well for an asynchronous class? Well, think about this. If you have a class that you have failed, right? You failed the class once already and you need to take it again for summer school. Well, that class is not offered in summer school. So, how do you get the credit? Perfect example. You take an asynchronous course. Usually it's the cheapest form of an asynchronous class is a class that has been recorded. When I was in school, I did one, they called them correspondence class. Remember correspondence class? It actually came as VHS. Oh man, that's how you know I'm an older millennial. I got a VHS correspondence class because I needed one course to graduate from college. And that course was not being offered during a semester where I had an available class slot. So I went to a third party group that the college sponsored, and I said, I need this one course. And they said, okay, great. Here's your, I think it was like 8 or 9 VHSs. And for those of you younger millennials and or younger than that, Gen Z or Gen Alpha, a VHS is something we had that was back in the 80s and 90s, and it's a cassette tape with video, I guess is how you would describe it. And if you really get that tape messed up, man, you just lose access to your whole video. It's like scratching your DVD. So I took this course and was able to graduate without any issues because the course I needed was now available. All right, benefits. I was able to do it nights and weekends. I was able to fast forward through the parts that were boring to me. Probably not something good to admit, but if I'm being honest, I did. A lot of them are based on a single assessment or a couple of assessments throughout the course. So if you listen and you succeed in these assessments, you pass the course. Usually, especially back then, they didn't have an online forum to talk about. They didn't have other class students who you would discuss with anywhere. You would just do it. So, okay, asynchronous works great for certain instances. But a synchronous online course, how does that work? Well, here's the thing. You log into a Zoom room or some other type of learning management system, and you're in there with an instructor, and you're in there with other students, and they're providing actual live instruction. There's discussion. You can, in some instances, raise your hand or draw on the whiteboard or blackboard or whatever they call it. It's really a computer screen, so it's none of the above. But if you have questions, there are live people to ask your questions of. Now, you lose flexibility because the classes are Tuesdays at 8 a.m., right? You can't do it whenever you feel like it, but you still don't have to wake up, get dressed, drive somewhere, or go somewhere and sit in a live class. You do it from the comfort of your own home in a remote environment. All right, so that's online learning. That's the flexibility piece. Affordability. Let's talk about affordability. What most people who don't work in the online course space don't understand is that, yes, okay, there is no physical infrastructure, there's no building, there's no desks, there's no air conditioner, there's no lights, but the technology piece is incredibly expensive. And it's more than just like, oh, I need an LMS. Like, if you want to keep your students safe, your data safe, your courses safe, all these different things, there's a high degree of effort that goes into and a high ticket price in order to make all of these things work. And so a lot of people say, oh, it's affordability. And in some instances there are, but a lot of times they're not taking care of digital security. or digital infrastructure at scale. So there is this great thing of online learning. At some point, we should probably on the podcast talk about hybrid learning, which combines both in person and remote, and mastery based versus assessments, project based learning, all these different things. But online learning is filling a really unique niche. I will say it's much older than COVID. The first K through 12 online schools are more than 20 years old, probably 25, 27, somewhere in there years old at this point. So it's been around much longer. And finally, on the online learning piece, what most people experienced during COVID was not online learning. Wait, no, I was home, I was learning. That's not online learning. That was emergency remote learning. It was done out of necessity, not out of design. And truly online learning is built with online first considered. It's built on purpose. It's not just a PDF that you would have done in person. Now it's a digitized PDF. No. That's not it. True online learning incorporates lots of multimedia and different things that make it actually a good learning experience. Okay, virtual classrooms and immersive learning. The future of in person education is somewhere in between virtual classrooms and immersive learning. So let's explore the potential of augmented reality technologies. What are they? What do they do? And how do we create an immersive, interactive learning environment that can enhance those traditional classroom experiences and maybe bridge the gap between remote and in-person instruction. So this is something that I would say is in its infancy, but as we've seen in all things technology lately, there's a huge curve. It's not just like a standard, 45-degree line if you're thinking of a chart. This is something that it's taking a long time to ramp up, but as soon as it gets implemented properly, it's going to take off. And so this is the idea. You see those goofy people wearing like the Apple goggles. I don't even know what they're called. Apple Vision Plus or Apple Vision Pro or something like that. Facebook's has their Meta, whatever. They have them. They have these goggles that you put on that do one of two things. You either see something completely new that is not in person, right? It's not where you currently live, or you have a mixed version. So you see some of what's really around you mixed in with things that aren't really there. They're technologically added to your vision. Why is this important? Well, there are some people who could not, for whatever reason, lots of different reasons, could not just up and go and see the Eiffel Tower. Huh. Yeah, that's kind of a thing. Like, I can't just drop everything and go see the Eiffel Tower today. But with augmented reality or virtual reality, you're able to take a tour of the Eiffel Tower, not just as it is today, but then there is really cool technology that allows you to see the Eiffel Tower as it's being built, and to see Paris before the Eiffel Tower is built, and to see the buildings literally growing up around you as you hear from the person, obviously not the real person, but the person who designed it. So virtual and immersive learning in classrooms is really cool. I would say it's still not 100% there, but it's definitely getting there. And I think it will be there soon to be more widely adopted and actually useful. All right, let's look at number 3, AI-powered tutoring. This is the quote unquote personalization revolution in education. Do I believe that? Man, I don't know. I don't know. I've got friends who are in the tutoring space. I've done projects with them. Will artificial intelligence be used to create personalized learning experiences tailored to each student's unique needs? Maybe. Strengths? Yeah. Weaknesses? Definitely. This could potentially revolutionize the way we approach this whole education thing. It could help close the achievement gap. But the problem that we're facing right now, severalfold. First, parents don't want computers teaching their kids. So, a fully AI opportunity is probably not going to take off immediately. Secondly, there has to be a component of utilizing the AI features in order to supplant or support the live instructors' one-on-one community building efforts, right? Because if there's not a well, man, I'm thinking through this as we're talking. If I have a computer doing all of the tutoring, or I have a person doing all the tutoring at scale, right? With a lot of them happening, lots of students that are paying you for your service. It's a heck of a lot cheaper to do it with an AI. So, from a business perspective, you're going to want to incorporate that AI. The problem is, once that opportunity is met, I've now passed whatever test I was studying for. Do I, as a user, turn that off and move on because it's just a computer? Like, I don't have any ties or emotional pull to this thing. Whereas if you had an in-person tutor or a digital but live instructor tutoring, now I've got a relationship. I've got community. I'm getting support not just on my instructional needs, but maybe on some research support and or some other area that's not necessarily related to passing whatever test it is that I'm studying for. So it creates a really unique issue because it can personalize a portion of it, but it doesn't allow me to be an individual connecting with another individual. So what do I think is going to happen here? I think you're going to see a bunch of companies utilize AI and cut off all of their instructors. And for a short time, I think it's going to do a lot of interesting things. I think it's going to do a lot of good things. But I think that you're going to see big investments and big changes once you utilize those in-person components. And I think that's going to be the long-term piece. I think the pendulum is going to swing back towards I want real life connection. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. You can come back and laugh at me from this episode's podcast 10 years from now. Who knows? All right. So number 4, the future of textbooks from physical to digital and beyond. All right. So we're going to talk about the shift from the traditional print textbook to digital and interactive resources. Let's look at exploring those potential benefits and challenges of this transition and the potential for even more innovative educational tools as we look forward to the future. So, textbooks have always been something that's static, right? The school buys textbooks. The textbooks are used for several years. They're now so rough that you can't use them anymore. So, we got to order some new textbooks. By process of getting new textbooks, you get more information. You get some tweaks, you get some changes, but more or less, those textbooks are basically the same, and you're just reprinting the same thing with a few tweaks here and there. With digital, you can make those edits real time. Just to give you insight, when a teacher logs in and they have a fully digital content, right? I've got a full digital content ready and available for my use. They can actually go into the digital textbook and take out sections that they don't want. They can add sections that they do want, and they can skip sections that they want to cover later. Now, this isn't true of all, but I would say generally speaking, teachers have a lot of flexibility. Digital textbook publishers have a ton of availability to change things real time. A great example of this was there was an issue a couple of years ago with Anne Franks. If you remember, Anne Franks was in the news. Yeah, I know she was from the 40s. And one of her books was canceled from something, and they just removed it real time. And parents lost their minds and said, hey, we got to get this thing back. And it became a thing. And then there was another organization that had a different version of Anne Frank, and they wanted the real one. And so they removed the one, and people lost their minds, and they were just getting rid of the incorrect one. It was a SparkNotes version or something, and they were putting in the real one. But it caused this whole big hullabaloo. And yeah, so if I put on my tinfoil hat for a minute, can I put my tinfoil hat on for a minute? I am a little worried at who has ultimate control over the digital textbooks. Do you completely erase a historical event because you don't want to teach it? Or do you change something that is no longer true because it's been edited? I guess it's all, that could be wrong. We've seen things that are wrong in textbooks as well. The point is, it's much easier for someone to come in and change whatever they want and then teach it as truth. I don't know. That's one of those things for us to figure out. All right. Fifth and finally, lifelong learning and the importance of skill development in the digital age. So let's look at the growing emphasis on those continuous learning and skill development in the rapidly changing job market. Let's discuss the role of technology in facilitating lifelong learning and the importance of cultivating a growth mindset in the face of constant innovation and disruption. This is the one where we really should have the boomer, because things are changing and they're changing quickly. And I kind of joke with him. I know how he feels to a point, because there are certain things now coming up that I don't know how to do, and I have to lean on my 9-year-old or 12-year-old to fix for me technologically, because I just have not kept up with the changing landscape. But I think that we're in a unique time in history where we can access lifelong learning at the tip of our fingers at any point that we want. Couple of examples. If you want to learn a language, which I do, I am learning Danish, as my heritage is Danish. Ja, dansk. I am learning it through Duolingo as one option, completely free. Practice, I'm streaking at 800 and some odd days now. I have gone without missing. But now I'm realizing that that is only getting me vocabulary, but not the discussion ability, right? I'm not able to go and like sit down and have a Danish conversation with someone. So now I've partnered with another organization called italki, and they pair you with native speakers through Zoom to have a conversation. And the beautiful part of this is these are not just native speakers, but they're native speakers who understand the language components and will help you become better speakers. And so I have now been able to ask about, you know, how certain verbs are conjugated in Danish, because they don't follow the traditional method. So it's been fantastic, and I've been talking with a gentleman who lives just outside Copenhagen, and it's been incredibly powerful. I think I pay like $19 an hour for a session. I mean, it's super cheap. Maybe a little bit more than that, but not much. I mean, it's really an affordable way to learn a new language. You can do that with anything. You want to learn how to cook? You can watch YouTube. You want to, learn how to write? Well, you can go to Writers Talk on TikTok or whatever. Like, there's just more information available. Even AI. I mean, you can ask AI anything you ask Google. I think Google's about to be upstaged. I mean, I hate to say it, because most people think I'm crazy for saying it, but I think it's going to go away. Not truly, but it's not going to function the same. So either Google's going to figure out how to utilize AI in information search, or someone else is going to come along and bypass them. So you can learn more, you can develop skills, and really there's no reason not to have this idea of continuous learning or skill development. Yeah, I'm really excited to dig into these 5 things with Dan, the retirement man, when he is done and back, which he gets back this week, and we're going to record later on this week for the next couple episodes. So stick right here and check it out. And don't forget, just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong.